All right, so might seem overwhelming with all the stuff, all the identities that you're doing, but we just need to practice some of these situations. So I want you to go to practice, the practice sheet, practice A, right here, kind of on the second page. And let's just give this one a try, kind of similar. So I have sine squared x times cosine squared, or cosecant squared x minus sine squared x. So you can pause this video and maybe just give it a try, see if you can do it before I show you. All right, so again, when we do this, we want to try to use maybe some identities. In this case, we are going to factor out a common factor. So we have sine squared here. I'm going to factor out a sine squared. Okay. And sometimes when I do these strategies, I might try something and realize, well, that didn't work. That didn't help me. But this is definitely, the right move in this case. I'm going to factor out a sine squared. Okay, because that's the greatest common factor here. Okay, like in our skill builder, it's like similar to having something like, y squared x squared minus y squared. And I say, hey, what's the common factor? And you're like, oh, I'm going to pull out a y squared from both of these. It's exactly what we're doing here. Okay, so if the sine, the cosecant's messing you up, think of the sine as an actual variable. So I'm going to pull out a sine squared x from this. What's left over is cosecant squared minus 1. Again, we have the situation of, okay, I did that. Did that help me at all? Whenever I have a sine squared, cosecant squared, plus or minus something, it might be a puzzle piece that we have. Cosecant squared minus 1. So I'm going to go back up to my identities and say cosecant squared minus 1. Look here. Is this going to do the job? Do I have a cosecant squared minus 1? No, I don't have one directly, explicitly. But I know that 1 plus cotangent squared equals cosecant squared. So that's the one I'm going to try to use. That's my puzzle piece that I'm going to grab. 1 plus cotangent squared. And I'm going to do that off to the side and say 1 plus cotangent squared x. Here I'll use x because this problem's using x equals cosecant squared x. And the puzzle piece that I have is cosecant squared minus 1. Well, can I make that? Yes, I can make that, because let's just subtract a 1 on both sides of this equation. Now I have a cotangent squared x equals cosecant squared x minus 1. So I got my puzzle piece right here. There it is. I know. And this is a good simplification because I'm going from a addition or subtraction to not an addition or subtraction. Cosecant squared minus 1 is equal to cotangent squared. So I'm going to say, all right, it's cool. Sine squared x times, let's make the substitution. This is cotangent squared x. Awesome. So this did simplify it or change this problem up. It's kind of nice. There's no addition or subtraction in there. Okay. All right. So can we go any further? Right. This is a step that when we get to an expression like this, sometimes it's good to change everything to sine and cosine. Okay. To see if there's any common factors or things that we can cancel off. So what I'm saying here is, look, cotangent squared. What is cotangent squared in terms of sine or cosine? Well, one of my trig identities says that cotangent is equal to cosine x minus sine x. And guess what? If I square that, that also means that cotangent squared x, which is what I have, would then be equal to cosine squared x divided by sine squared x. So this is a puzzle piece that I can use, and this allows me to see if I can cancel things. Is there a common factor here? So right here, cotangent squared x is equal to cosine squared over sine squared. And I'm going to go ahead and do that because cotangent squared x, plug it in, right? Let's just change that to our sine and our cosine. And if nothing cancels off here, then I probably would just leave it, as sine squared plus cotangent squared. But let's plug it in. When I do that, you can see that this is going to cancel. Okay. Now I have sine squared x times cosine squared x over sine squared x. Well, now we can cancel these things off. I got a sine squared on the top and I have a sine squared on the bottom. Well, that divided by that is 1. So my answer here is simply cosine squared x, and that is it in that problem.